Hi, my name is Darren Joseph from HCJ.tax, and we're the team that seeks to demystify that sometimes confusing world of international tax. And today we have a bit of a segue. We have the honor and the privilege of speaking with Steve Maggi. Steve, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Steve Maggi here. I'm an immigrant from Argentina, and I've been running my own immigration practice based in the US since 2004, so for a little while.
Okay, fantastic.
And could you talk us through or talk about what you think is the outlook for the EB-5?
Wow. Well, EB-5 is something that I was one of the first attorneys to work on those cases where there was an explosion in 2004 to 2006 or so when it became something where there were a lot of nouveau riche, as you know, in China because of the way that the GDP was manipulated and the values of property skyrocketed. And all of a sudden there was this whole new class of people that could get that EB-5, right? Because back then it was $500,000 to invest. Then what happened was because there's a 7% cap per country, when the 10,000 visas per year were met, it retrogressed. So they started applying that cap. China now has a 9-year backlog. Wow. India has a 3-year backlog. And the personnel in the US, part of the Department of Homeland Security, is not sufficient to process all these petitions, and you can't what's called premium process them. So you're looking at years of processing times. And the problem with that is your money is now held up in that investment. And then you have the additional thing, which is you have to remove conditions, which is also problematic because if project you're investing in is set to create these jobs in the next 3 years, it takes 5 years to get an approval. Then you get the visa, those jobs have already been created. Maybe the project is closed, right? And then you can't prove that you created 10 full-time jobs based on your direct investment. So you're putting your money at risk on hold for a long time, but your green card depends permanently on that job creation. They also made it more expensive. So now it's 1 million, it's 1,050,000 or 800,000 if it's a targeted employment area. So it's more expensive. It takes longer to process. There are backlogs depending on what country you're from. And then the chances of getting the permanent residence through it are slim. And then even if you get that, you still have to wait 5 years to become a citizen. So I think that's why these citizenship by investment programs offered by other countries are much more attractive. There's just so many loopholes and obstacles and delays with the EB-5 program now that it's caused a shrinkage, a major shrinkage in terms of the people who are investing. So we try to find alternatives for people, Darren. Like if you're extraordinary in your field, you can self-sponsor through what's called an EB-1A. There's no investment involved. You can get your immigrant visa within a year. Or if you have an existing multinational, you set up a subsidiary, eventually you can get what's called an EB-1C, and you're running your business until you get that. You get an L1 visa in the meantime. You build your US business, you get a green card as a multinational manager or executive, and you've made money on your own business as opposed to having it sitting in someone else's account and crossing your fingers that those jobs will be created after so many years of waiting. It just, to me, EB-5, the way it is right now, just does not make any sense.
Right. So you're thinking is that it may be phased out, or
it could be replaced hypothetically by this golden visa. We don't have a lot of information about that. I know we're going to talk about that. They would have to replace it or re-engineer it. The problem is this. No one wants to wait years to get an answer on their petition. If you can fast track it, these are people that have money. But a lot of them, quite honestly, a lot of the clients, we've done over 100 of these cases, a lot of them really were pooling resources from friends, family. There are capital limits of moving funds out of countries like China. So they were pooling all these funds together to just barely make the investment amount. Though that kind of person no longer can afford the 800,000 plus all the fees, and they can't do all that waiting that they didn't have to do 15 years ago. And so I think it needs to be overhauled or removed, replaced by something else.
Okay.
And if someone wanted to reach you, what's the best way to find you?
Probably just to contact me on LinkedIn or to write me directly, SMAGGI at SMAlawyers with an S.com. The website is www.smaimmigration.com. They can also send a query through the website.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.